Thank you for joining us. I'm Doug Evans, the President and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. This is your Palm Beach Guide. It's a weekly look behind the scenes of everything Palm Beach, the Palm Beach area, the Palm Beach region, the Palm Beaches, and Palm Beach County. And every week we have a very special guest. Today is Jonathan Duerr. And Jonathan is a chamber member, of course, which you got to be a chamber member to be on our podcast here. But I was talking to you off camera this morning a little bit when you first sat down here. We're here to talk about Alba. We're here to talk about your real estate ventures. But you are involved in so many charities. You're like the man about town, the bon vivant of like Palm Beach and Palm Beach County. And it's like, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to Palm Beach County. Are you a native? Are you not a native? And all these charities you're doing, I don't know how you possibly have time to do. So tell us where you're from, your background a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I want to dive into all the charities that you have been involved in. Which is to me is mind-blowing in a way, because I think it's important to be fully embedded in the community in which you live. So tell us all about the good stuff.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Doug. Appreciate it for being here. Palm Beach County is where I have lived and resided for the last 20 years.
Great.
And truly live, eat, work, breathe, everything that Palm Beach County is. And I'm fortunate to be here, and fortunate to be here with you this morning. So a little bit about my background. Originally, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, nice city, actually.
Yeah.
It really is.
Ellicott City, just outside of there. Went to an all-guy Catholic school that my father also attended. He graduated in 51. I graduated in 2000, so that was a little legacy moment. From there, I found myself at University of Miami for college down in Coral Gables. So that's what brought me to Florida. And once you are in 80-degree weather in December staring at palm trees, you typically don't go back to Baltimore.
Bye-bye Baltimore.
So from Miami, I was hired by DeVosta and Pulte Homes out of school, which brought me up here to Jupiter in Palm Beach County. And I learned real estate. I learned new development home sales from DeVosta and Pulte in a little neighborhood called Abacoa, which is not too far from where we are now.
Which is not a little neighborhood anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I was there doing real estate there for about 5 years, and then the market kind of turned. I decided I wanted to get into residential resale and move downtown to West Palm Beach. But if you rewind just a tad bit, what got me into all the philanthropical organizations is I was actually at a restaurant here called Waterway Cafe, which has just now gone through a tremendous renovation. And I saw a sign for Team in Training with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Sure.
And that's where you train for marathons, half marathons, walking events, and you raise money for LLS, which is their mission is to fight blood cancers and all blood cancers, including leukemia, lymphoma, Hodgkin's, non-Hodgkin's disease. And I saw this, and it sparked something in me because one of my buddies from high school had dealt with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma while I was in college, and I couldn't do anything for him then. So I saw this flyer, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this half marathon. I'm going to train and raise money in honor of Matt, who was a survivor.
Good. Good.
Yeah. So I did that, had a great time doing it, met a lot of new people, learned, how to run a half marathon. And that was sort of what started the snowball effect into LLS and Leukemia Lymphoma Society and my sort of philanthropic endeavors here in Palm Beach County. And that was back in 2008. And from there, I was asked to run for Man of the Year, which is a 10-week campaign.
I remember that,
yes. You know that? Yeah, a lot of our young professionals have been involved in that. And from there, went on to become a board member. There, went on to become vice chair of the board of trustees. And then all of a sudden found myself starting to host some of these charity events, which then led into being auctioneer at a lot of these charity events. So fast forward, 15 years, 17 years, and now I am a professional MC and auctioneer for philanthropic organizations.
Auctioneering is not easy.
No, it's not, but it's fun. We make it fun. We make it personable, and I'm lucky enough to use the talents that God gave me to help raise money and awareness for all different charities throughout the Palm Beach County and abroad. So Leukemia Lymphoma Society, Big Dog Rescue Ranch, Place of Hope,
yes,
Cancer Alliance.
All good charities.
Yep.
All good charities.
And then most recently, we did American Cancer Society. We did a great event at the Norton Museum 2 Thursdays ago called Fork Cancer, which I emceed last year.
Like
fork,
like a fork,
like
like
a fork,
eat. Okay.
like eat, like fork cancer, because we don't like cancer, but it's an eating and drinking event. So we gathered about 25 local vendors, restaurant and beverage vendors.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it was a great event. And this year I not only emceed it, but I chaired it in honor of my father, who unfortunately lost his battle to pancreatic cancer back in October.
That's a terrible cancer.
It is. It's bad. 3 of my sisters are breast cancer survivors. So
you're healthy, I hope.
I am. I just did my full body Pronuva scan.
Great.
I'm very up on all my blood work. So
I hear that when it's genetic, it's like, oh my goodness, got to keep an eye on those things.
You just keep an eye.
You do.
You know, there's so many good cures.
You stay ahead of it. And I would think with you, with leukemia, lymphoma, and the people that you volunteer for, it's front of mind.
Yep.
So you know to do that. So anyway, didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm like,
no.
I hear that you're okay, and that's what's most important.
Absolutely. And I know I'm kind of speeding through things, but I figured that was the best way to do it. But that's how I got involved in the charity aspect of my life. It's very important to me. My parents raised me like that. My dad and mom and stepmom and stepdad were always giving back to the community. So I just was brought up like that.
Well, and Baltimore's a great city. I had spent a lot of time there at a point in time when I was in the theater business, because Baltimore has all those big old grand glorious historical theaters. And a woman named Hope Quackenbush was the matriarch of all the theaters in Baltimore, and she made sure that all those buildings were brought back to life.
Oh, wow.
And the mechanic, all the theaters in Baltimore. So I've got a long legacy with Baltimore. In any case, so you come from good stock in a good town, and you moved here 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're like me. I've been here for 40 years in the town of Palm Beach, and I've seen this transformation, this emerging new market, even though it's an older market, and old compared to Baltimore, it's not old. The Northeast, I'm from the Northeast also. Yeah. Those are old cities and towns. In any case, with you and your business and 1,000 people a day moving to Florida, 1,000 people a day, I think that's got to create a robust environment for anybody who wants to start a business here or grow their business or be here. And you, 20 years in West Palm Beach. 20 years ago, you kind of didn't want to go to West Palm Beach. True?
Yeah, it was a little different than it is now. It's funny. I remember people saying that, West Palm was sort of the stepsister of Palm Beach Island for quite a long time. But now there's so much integration between the two, which I just absolutely love.
Yes.
I love seeing the two mayors work together. I love seeing the sort of cross-pollination between the restaurants, the arts, the culture, the real estate now, which is very different. Yep. And just the growth.
Yeah, the cross-pollination, I think, is really important. And I'm one of those people. I've been here long enough to remember there's us and them. Mm-hmm. And us was the island, and them was the whole rest of the world, quite honestly. Exactly. It was just West Palm Beach. It was the whole rest of the world. It's like us and them, raise the bridges, and we're done kind of a thing. But I've always been a proponent against that.
Yep.
I mean, I've been a proponent for it becoming a region of people working together. And I'm glad that you said Donnie Moore, our mayor of the town of Palm Beach. She's terrific, by the way. She works with everybody, and she's a legacy mayor. Her mother was mayor. Her uncle was mayor. They've got a great history. But the real estate market, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit now today with you, is we have all these big old houses on the island of Palm Beach. Big old houses that are worth $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, $175 million. Yeah,
I was going to say, keep going.
Keep going. It's the numbers, the $1 billion house that's being built right now, the billion with a B dollar house that's being built right now. But that's changed because, and I want you to talk about this a little bit, people have migrated from the families who have sold. There's two things here. The people who've sold those big old houses don't want to be in the big old houses anymore. They were there for 20, 30 years probably. They probably had kids there. The grandkids have come along. I've been here long enough to watch the transformation of the north end of the island of Palm Beach, where people bought those cottage houses. They bought them in the 1960s, had kids and grandkids, and now they're out of those. And I've seen an influx of young people, young being 40s and 50s, with kids moving into the north end and buying houses. Okay. So for you and your business, you're seeing people sell the big old houses, don't want them anymore. You're seeing people in the north end selling their houses to a younger group of people. I actually see school buses on the streets now on the island of Palm Beach, which was something almost like, I'm like, where'd that come from? It's a mirage, it's an illusion. But for you, tell us about your business, what this has meant for you continuing to build your real estate career here, because it's got to be two great advantages to help you with this.
Yeah, absolutely. As mentioned, I do residential resales, luxury sales. I'm with One Sotheby's here, One Sotheby's Real Estate.
Great agency.
It is a great agency. Sotheby's overall as a parent company is just phenomenal. Obviously, it's just a legacy beyond just real estate, but art, of course, and so much more. And then on top of that, I also do new development sales for a brand new high-rise called Alba Palm Beach, which is a brand new high-rise directly on the Intracoastal. It's right next to the Safe Harbor Marina, which used to be called the Rybovich Marina, which of course is about to go through a $2 billion renovation.
It's called Safe Harbor now.
It is called Safe Harbor.
Okay, I've learned something new then.
Yeah, we still call it Rybovich.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is called Safe Harbor now.
It's going through a what?
They're going to go through a $2 billion renovation.
With a B.
With a B. They are going to expand 60,000 square feet of retail, restaurant, and residential space there. So that is right next to our project.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But this is unheard of. This is unheard of because...
Well, this is the growth.
Yeah, this is coming. I mean, for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, you can see the look of shock on my face to think that $2 billion is being put into an old marina on the continent. And the continent is the landmass, which is where West Palm Beach is. It's not the island. 2B with a billion.
That's what I've read. That's what they're saying in the news. So
okay,
we'll see.
You read it in the news, it's got to be real. So anyway, the Rybovich Marina is now called Safe Harbor, and you are developing a building there called Alba.
Yep, it's called Alba Palm Beach. It is 22 stories in height, but composed of only 55 luxury waterfront residences.
Beautiful.
What's fantastic about our project is we have officially topped off about last month.
Didn't realize that.
And we will be delivering next spring. So we're the only new construction project that's in this cycle that is going to be delivering spring of 2026, way ahead of some of the other projects. We're also the only ones that are directly on the Intracoastal, which most of the other projects are west of Flagler. Yeah,
it's hard to do.
So they're all 4 homes to a floor, semi-private elevators. We've got some tremendous half-floor penthouses. Our pricing is from 2.5 to 4.5 for the traditional homes.
Oh, that's affordable.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's affordable. 2.5 million for something in a new development with a boutique building. I know you're thinking as you're listening, $2.5 million for a condo. No, that's affordable in this market. That's a really good price point, quite honestly.
And especially to be in a new construction directly on the water. It's a fantastic project. I'd love to be a part of it. Kenny Baboon is our developer.
He's great.
Yep, you know very well. He's with Blue Road and BGI. Spina O'Rourke is our architect and designer, who everybody loves. Everybody loves Spina O'Rourke.
Amazing.
And Moss Construction is actually who's building the building. So it is really a AAA team that came together to build this, which I think is phenomenal. It's in the neighborhood of Northwood,
right?
Which, as we know, has sort of always been up and coming, but now it's here. GL Homes just announced that they're going to be building about 100 new homes throughout the streets of Northwood.
Wow. That will transform that neighborhood.
Tremendously. You've got Nora, obviously, which we know very well, the Nora district, and then the Northwood district too. So much is happening. We talked about the growth of West Palm, and because of that growth and the density, you're seeing sort of outspurts kind of go north into Northwood and then south into El Cid, of course, and then down into SoSo and beyond. So I've witnessed all this just like you have over the last 15 years.
Well, it's interesting for you and a distinct advantage. When people listen to us, one of the interviews I did earlier this year, we talk about aspirational values of wanting to move somewhere. And Palm Beach is the geopolitical center of the universe right now, and has been for a long time. But as I said, I was in London last week speaking at a conference. I said, we're this little town you've never heard of. Well, you hear about us all the time. Yeah. The news all the time. The Winter White House is here for the President of the United States. And it's one of those places where you just mentioned, and I said 2.5 million is affordable. But Jonathan, there are other places you can move here for a lot less money. And it's probably a really good time to get into the market, isn't it? I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've sort of transitioned to what some would call a buyer's market at this point, or at least sort of a flat, sort of stable market. We saw tremendous, appreciation and tremendous growth, obviously during the pandemic. I like to say that that's kind of when that spotlight really hit West Palm and Palm Beach.
It did.
And we saw growth that honestly had happened over the course of 2 years that probably should have happened over the course of 3 to 5 years prior to that.
Pandemic.
We've always been a beautiful town directly on the water. One of the best run states, I believe, here in the country, with the best, weather year round.
Correct.
So I think we were always undervalued, and we just made that jump, which felt like overnight. And that's what kind of shocked people.
It really was overnight. If you've just tuned in, you've dropped in on us, you're listening to Doug Evans, President and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. This is your Palm Beach Guide. It's behind the scenes, in the scenes, of the scenes, and being a part of our town with Jonathan Duerr today, who is a person who volunteers lots and lots of time, but he's also a real estate professional. So yeah, all these areas, and I want to make a point to people listening and watching. There are affordable areas that are not $2.5 million that you can get into this market. And my observation is, if you're willing to come into one of the new neighborhoods that's expanding dramatically, probably a smart time to get in and buy something, because I have to assume, and I'm not the professional you are, I have to assume it's going to appreciate in value given what's happening in these markets.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got neighborhoods like Northwood, which you just talked about. You've got neighborhoods like SoSo, which is south of Southern Boulevard. You're seeing the trends always happen on the waterfront, right? So we saw some of these tremendous, new homes being built on North Flagler. Now you're starting to see big houses, 15 to 35, 40 million now on the water. And then you're starting to see that kind of come inland into the 100 block, then the 200 block, then the 300 block. So
when
and
you
you're
say
seeing the
1
same
to
thing
200,
south.
that's coming off the water.
Coming
then,
off
correct?
the water,
Right.
yep. Yeah, and so you're seeing some great value there, some great growth, and not to mention they're tremendously really cool, charming, homes that have been
Bungalows?
built there, 1920s, 30s, which are great because they're historically landmarked and they're going to stay that way. So they're going to keep the neighborhood.
Them.
You can't touch the facade. You can go in the inside and renovate and update as much as you want, but the facade, the front and the walls need to stay where they are.
So we won't lose that South Florida, West Palm Beach kind of feel.
Which I love, which I thought was really important with the guys from Nora when they went in to develop that project. They were keeping a lot of the same looks. They were already keeping some of the homes there. I spoke a lot on their behalf because I really believed in what they were doing. They weren't trying to come in and rip everything up, right? They were going to keep the integrity and the charm of the area, but lift everything else up along with it.
Do you feel, because the zoning regulations on the island of Palm Beach are so stringent and so strict, because they want to make sure, they meaning the town council and the people who run our great little town, they all work so hard. And
Absolutely.
It's a thankless job. It's not. People complain all the time. But is that happening also in West Palm Beach, where they're a little more stricter, or they're not being strict, but they're being a little more specific on making sure you maintain the charm?
Absolutely.
And the feel?
Yeah. Yep. You've got the same, obviously governing boards in West Palm that you do on Palm Beach Island. There's definitely, historic districts that are there that are put in place, and there are measures that are making sure that, some homes, look like the rest of the homes on the street. So a client of mine redid a home on Sunset Road in El Cid a few years ago.
Nice.
We went in with some plans. It was a little more modern, and that got turned down, which was fine. They said we want it to look a little more like this, and so
So they're really
it.
paying attention then.
Yeah, yep. There are people paying attention, which I think is important. And again, it just goes back to the community feel that we have in the Palm Beaches, which is what I like to now call, of course, West Palm and Palm Beach.
It is the Palm Beaches. So are the neighborhoods safe?
Yeah, I'm honestly, I've lived here I live downtown now since 2010, so almost 15 years.
So you feel that it's a good, safe environment?
1,000%.
Yeah, because I think people kind of worry about that. They kind of see what's happening, as the neighborhoods spread out, and you start to, because you're in the business, you start to displace people who've been there for a long, long time, who can no longer afford to be there. But what is the definition of affordability? I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And, I think you're creating such a wonderful environment for people to move into this market. With 1,000 people a day coming to Florida, I've not seen the data that comes downstream from that to find out where they're exactly going.
Yeah.
But the trend is, by the year 2050, 2/3 of the world's population will live in cities and towns. 2050, that's not that far away.
No.
I may not be here, meaning being alive, but that's okay. But what you're creating now for them is the genesis of the market for people to move into now, which is really cool. So Alba, how many stories?
So it's 22 stories in height, 55 total residences. We are a little over 60% sold out.
That was my next question.
Yep. A little over 60% sold out, which is fantastic, especially where we are. So we will most definitely, I would say, be completely sold out by the time we open our doors.
And is it right on the marina?
It is 47 Flagler is the address, 4714. So it's directly on the water. We're the first of 5 new buildings that are going to go in that sort of strip, and then that'll be it for that land. So if you remember when the Bristol came out,
yes,
the Bristol was, everybody was very nervous about it, and you can never do this, in West Palm Beach, and these numbers are
crazy,
what they are, and that was
numbers.
5 million. Now they're 3 and 4 times that, if not 10 times
well,
that.
And the Bristol, as a point of reference, was the first major new condominium development to go up in West Palm Beach on the Intercoastal Waterway.
Yeah.
And I believe they occupied land that the church owned and had an outdoor chapel on, as I recall. And they bought it from them. And how many stories is that building? It's got to be 20?
25, I think.
20 plus stories, basically. And people thought nobody's going to live there. because it's West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to buy those condos. It's because it's West Palm Beach. Well, the condos there sell for 5, 10, 15, 20, $30 million now.
Yeah, I mean, the low floors are a little over 10 million, and you're getting up into, I mean, there was actually talks at one point, that the penthouse was going to sell close to 100 million. I mean, it's just phenomenal. But what that did for West Palm Beach was it set a new mark. And then from there, you had new buildings that came up like Forte, La Clara. In fact, it was announced this morning that South Flagler House, they just got their loan, which is almost $500 million. So,
South Flagler House, so that's the 2 towers that are going up? Okay.
Yep, that's the 2 towers. So done by Stephen Ross, who's doing tremendous things for West Palm. He's got a $10 billion investment that he's giving into our city and surroundings. So it's.
Are you concerned about the infrastructure at all?
I mean, I think that's got to concern everybody.
Yeah,
I think
traffic.
Traffic is traffic. I mean, we are becoming a larger, big little city. But you mentioned affordable areas and different communities, and you've got communities that are like Avenir or Westlake, much like Abacoa that I worked at where I started my career.
And where is Avenir?
So Avenir and Westlake are west. They would be out west, like up west of North Lake. Still only 20, 25 minutes, but they're growing these own towns. So that's what we had talked about. You had mentioned people are going to be moving into cities or towns where you're seeing these new towns pop up. And
they become actual towns, don't they?
Yep. They have their own, they have their own city, places. They have their own, Publix, their doctor's office, their dentists, their own, restaurants, much like Alton up here in Palm Beach Gardens.
Sure.
And now we're seeing that kind of spawn out west. And you're still only 20, 25 minutes from downtown West Palm, or 25, 30 minutes to the beach, which is pretty reasonable.
It's very reasonable. And the prices, I'm assuming, are more reasonable also.
Much more reasonable out there. Yeah,
so when you go into like an Avenir or somewhere, what's an entry point for a house?
You're probably looking at like 800.
Okay.
I mean, you could get something a little bit smaller, maybe in like the 600 level, townhome kind of thing, which is still a great price.
Which is a great price. I was looking at prices of condos in London, like London, the town of London.
Oh yeah, that's way different.
And a studio in the city of London was £600,000. So it's about $800,000. It's like 1.30 to the dollar now. And I'm like, who can afford that? Who can afford that? Especially trying to raise a family. But when you think about getting into a starter home for $600,000, in today's day and age, that's not outrageous.
No, and you can still do that in West Palm Beach, downtown, west of Dixie. I mean, there's still areas to do that in, which is great.
Well, you also have to remember that, when you think about moving here, and I hope more and more people will consider that item, there's no income tax here. Property taxes are relatively affordable. Once you buy your house and you homestead it, it's a term you should Google. Once you homestead it, your property taxes can't go up by more than 1% per year? 3% per year? Well, that's nothing.
No.
I mean, that's absolutely nothing. And so you can lock in, and I think that the state of Florida is trying to do something even better for us at this point in time to maybe reduce property taxes even more.
Yeah. There's talks of that. Governor Sanders has talked about eliminating property taxes. I don't know if that's going to possibly happen, but at least there's talks, so maybe there'll be some decrease.
Look, it's the land of sunshine. We're sunny here 300 plus days per year, and of course, when you have no income tax and to have your car here is $80 per year, and you don't pay an excise tax on that, it's really, really worth it. Yeah. Well, Jonathan, I'm so glad you came today. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the easiest way to reach you?
So easiest way to reach me would be my cell phone, which is constantly on. You heard it ding. I apologize about that.
That's okay.
It's the real estate world.
It is what it is.
So that's 305-962-1876.
It's a Miami number, 305.
I've had to keep it. Everybody's had it. I'm also very active on social media. The Duerr. T-H-E, Duerr, D-U-E-R-R. Those are really the best ways. Of course, emails as well.
And he is on social media. I see him all the time. He's out there. I swear that there's like 5 of him because he's everywhere all the time. Jonathan, thank you for coming in today. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you for having me,
and thank you for being a part of the chamber. I know that you've done a lot for us, especially with our young professionals. It's a great group of people, and I wish you nothing but success with Alba and all the great things you're doing.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Doug Evans. I'm the president and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. This is your Palm Beach guide. It's the inside access to everything you need to know about it. And when I want you to come here at least for a visit. Come stay at the Breakers, the Colony, one of our great hotels, one of our members, and you're going to find out, once you live here, you'll never want to live anywhere else. I promise. That's a promise from Jonathan Duerr.
Greatest place on earth.
It is. Have a great day. Thanks so much. Tune in again.